ॐ
सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम्
अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। So we'll continue with where we left off. This was verse number 40 now that we are on. So we'll chant. Shri Bhagavanuvāca.
Shri Bhagavanuvāca.
Nehabhikramanāṣosti.
Nehabhikramanāṣosti.
Pratyavāyo na vidyate.
Pratyavayo na vidyate.
Swalpamapyasya dharmasya.
Swalpamapyasya dharmasya.
Trayate mahato bhayat.
Trayate mahato bhayat.
Okay, so we will first look at as usual, at the grammar. So the first word is Neha Vikrama Nashosti. So you break it into Na, Iha, Abhikrama, Nashaha, Asti. Na, Iha, Abhikrama, Nasha, Asti. Pratyavayaha na vidyate. Swalpam api asya. So swalpam api asya is three words. Swalpam api asya dharmasya trayate mahataha bhayat. And the anvaya will be iha abhikramaha nashaha na asti, comma. First sentence. Iha abhikramaha nashaha na asti. Pratyavayaha na vidyate, full stop. Asya dharmasya swalpam or sualpam api mahataha bhayat trayate. So iha. So iha is an important word. It means here. So we come to that. So iha, in this or here. Abhikramaha, abhikramaha is effort. Abhikramaha means effort. So na asti. Iha abhikramaha nashaha na asti. In this there is no nashaha, no loss, no waste of abhikramaha. Abhikramaha means effort. So first sentence, iha abhikramaha nashaha nasti. In this there is no waste of effort. So what that this means, iha means we'll see later. Second part of the sentence, pratyavayaha na vidyate. There are no pratyavayaha. So what is pratyavaya also we'll see. There are no pratyavayaha. Then sentence 3, there will be swalpam api, even very little, asya dharmasya, of this dharma, trayate mahataha bhayat, protects one from great fear. So asya dharmasya swalpam api mahataha bhayat trayate. Even very little of this dharma protects one from great fear. So in short, in this field, in this there is no failure. So here, in this is what? When you say iha, what does it mean?
Karma yoga.
Karma yoga. Why karma yoga?
In the previous verse, he had been talking of Karma Yoga. He introduced Karma Yoga.
Exactly. So we are now entering into the Karma Yoga portion. And therefore, contextually, Iha means Karma Yoga. So Krishna is glorifying Karma Yoga. Iha means in Karma Yoga. So what he's saying is in Karma Yoga, there is no failure. There is never any adverse results. And Swalpamapasya, even little of this dharma, the dharma again means Karma Yoga. Even a little of this discipline protects one from the great problems of samsara. So Karma Yoga is that way of life. Is a way of life in which we give importance, consciously we give importance more to our internal growth than to external accomplishments or external growth. Okay. Because the Karma Yogi has understood that peace of mind, mana shantihi, does not depend upon what I have, but the peace of mind depends upon what I am. So very, very important. Your peace of mind does not depend upon what you have, but instead depends upon what you are. So this is the basic philosophy of the Gita. Why is this being specifically pointed out? Because the general misconception among all of us is what? That happiness arises out of what I have. The more money I have, the more friends I have, the more luxuries I have, the more fame I have, the happier I am. So that is a general misconception. And therefore, Krishna is pointing out that is wrong. What you have is not the indicator of how secure you are, how happy you are. What you are is the indicator. So Krishna is saying, don't be under that misconception. It is the biggest error that we can make. Your peace and security depends upon what is the maturity that you have, what type of inner growth you have engineered, what type of personality that you have. And that is why if you look at this culture of ours, you will find that some of the people who are considered the greatest, they have enjoyed great happiness, but without any material goods. So karma is a lifestyle in which I progress more upon my inner growth. It's not that I don't look at external possessions. That it's not that because I'm a karma yogi, I disregard money, I disrespect money, I disrespect possessions, I don't bother about status. It is not that. But in a comparison between inner growth and external growth, if it comes to a choice, then I choose inner growth above external growth. I can have both. And in fact, in most karma yogis cases, both are there. Only the focus is more on the inner growth than on the external growth. And if you're asked to choose between the two, then you should choose inner growth. That and such a lifestyle is called karma yoga. So abhikramaha here means the effort, right? And Krishna is saying that iha, in this karma yoga lifestyle, abhikramaha nashaha naasti. There is no loss of any effort. No effort is wasted. So in karma yoga, there is no such thing as failure. And a karma yogi never feels that there has been a failure in his life. I'm talking about the karma yogi's personal point of view. Now, he might be considered a total failure from the angle of the world, right? Your friends, your relatives, your wife, your children, your parents, everybody may say you are a useless person. You are a total failure. That is from the laukika angle, from the worldly angle. But the karma yogi is asking only one question to himself. From the standpoint of view of my experiences, have I learned any lesson? Every experience that I have got, have I learned a lesson? Have I achieved inner growth? And if that has happened, then the karma yogi says, yes, I have been successful. So from the Karma Yogi's point, he is not looking at the external growth, at his possessions, at his status, at the wealth. That he is not looking at. He is saying that this experience which I have gone through, which may have resulted in success or in failure, have I learned something? If I have learned, then that effort which I put into that particular activity, even if the activity did not succeed, I will consider Abhikramaha Nashana Asti. I will consider the effort has not gone waste. While because you did not succeed in the effort, other people around you will tell you that you have failed. But you don't know failure at all. For a Karma Yogi, as long as he's got a mindset which is picking up learning from every success as well as every failure, there is no loss for him. And similarly, another aspect of it says, because of this, Pratyavayaha na vidyate. Now, Pratyavaya is a concept. It's a technical term in Vedanta. So the technical term is in Vedanta, which I'll explain, but that meaning is not to be taken here. Okay, you must know the term because as you go through Bhagavad Gita, you will find that this term is very frequently used in terms of understanding what arises out of actions. So there's something called Pratyavaya Papam. The Pratyavaya Papam is taken as the Papam arising if you do not do something which you are supposed to do. So Nitya Karma, mandated karma. Mandated by whom? By scriptures. When Veda says you must do something, which part of Veda? Karma Kanda. Not Upanishad Kanda, that is the Jnana Kanda, does not mandate anything. Does not ask you to do any action. It is always the Karma Kanda which asks you to do action. So if the Karma Kanda says that you have to do this, Nitya Karma Karne ka hai. For example, you have to do your Sandhya Vandana. Every morning that Sandhya Vandana has to be done. That's part of the Karma Kanda. If you don't do that, then it says that there is a special kind of Papam, which is called Pratyavaya Papam. Or if you, so the point is that normally, why is this particular interpretation given? Because normally only karma can create papam. Do you understand? Karma has a karma phalam. So if you do a negative karma, then there is papam. If you do a positive karma, then there is punyam. So the hetu, the reason for the phalam arising is the doing of the karma. And therefore you might ask, how can, because Pratyavaya Papam is explained as papam arising out of not doing karma, which you are supposed to do. And therefore going by the karma theory, which says that it is the karma which decides whether you get papam or punyam, you might say, but I have not done anything. I granted Veda says, do Sandhya Vandanam, but I did not do anything. In the absence of any karma, how can there be karma phalam? Do you understand the problem?
Yes.
So without doing something, how can I incur a papam, which is a generation, right? A generation, a phalam it is. How can phalam come without the seed being there? The bija, the seed itself is what? Karma. The karma itself is not there. How can papam come? That is the question, right? And there's an explanation for this. So Shankara somewhere says that it is true that only karma can give you karma phalam. In that case, why does Shastra talk about Pratyavaya Papam? So Shankara says that the non-doing of the karma indicates that the sanchita, there is a certain amount of sanchita papam already in you. That papam is being exposed. Okay, that's a technical discussion. We'll not enter into that. But correctly what he's saying, what is being said is that the argument here is that normally if karma is not done, there would be no phalam. Okay. So we had I don't know if you had the discussion earlier. Supposing you have, thought in your mind, there is a motivation to do harm to somebody. What is the normal understanding? That motivation will bring papa, right? But the motivation has come, but your intellect has said that no, I will not do it. And you have not put it into practice. So normally we say there is no phalam at all. The motivation is not good for you, you have to get rid of it, but papa may not arise. Okay. Now, this pratyavaya papam is used specifically in terms of Veda mandated karma. So if you don't do that, the pratyavaya papam is supposed to arise. That is the technical meaning. But here in this verse, you cannot give that meaning, right? Because karma yogi is actually doing karma. So Shankara says here that this term pratyavaya papam is being used here, but technical meaning should not be taken. What here it means is that there is no viparita phalam. There is no negative result. So whatever activity you have done for you, there is no negative result. This is what you would have to take this meaning as, which means that at the minimum level, you have done some activity and which has failed. Okay. Let us say that you studied hard for some examination and you went there and you failed. So normally people will say you have failed. But if you have done the activity with the attitude of a karma yogi, then Vedanta says that, okay, you failed in the materialistic aspect. But because the attitude was that of a karma yogi, you will get purity of mind, chitta shuddhi. And therefore he says, pratyavaya na vidyate. There is never any negative result. Because whether or not you have succeeded materially, you have got plus in chitta shuddhi. And there was something you have got out of that activity. And therefore there is no failure. That is what it means. Pratyavaya na vidyate. Remember that from the worldly angle, from Laukika angle, every action can have a positive result or a negative result. Right? I can set up a business and I can set up a shop. If I make profits, it is called positive result. If I make losses and lose all my money, it's a negative result. So from the Laukika angle, from the materialistic angle, every action will always have positive or a negative result. But for karma yogi, whether or not there is a positive result in the activity itself, from the worldly angle, he will get chitta shuddhi anyway. And therefore, while a worldly person looks only at the gain and the loss in terms of money, the karma yogi primarily looks at the chitta shuddhi, the gain in terms of chitta shuddhi, the what they call purity of mind. And if he has got a positive result in the business, then it is positive result plus chitta shuddhi. So anyway, it is win-win. If he has got a loss in the business, anyway, he has a positive result in the chitta shuddhi. So there's still a positive result. And that is why pratyavaya na vidyate. Pratyavaya here in this particular verse is understood as what? Is understood as negative result. So negative results are never there for a karma yogi. So for karma yogi learns from every experience. Whether the experience gives him positive or negative result, otherwise is not relevant for this particular interpretation. So life's normal journey has been reversed for the karma yogi, right? Normally obstacles will stop us. But the karma yogi has no obstacle, because whether or the material obstacle, he does not consider an obstacle. He considers part of his prarabdha karma only. The positivity arising out of chitta shuddhi is the gain for him out of every single experience. And what is the attitude that we will see in later verses? But for this person, the spiritual journey has begun. He is on the spiritual escalator. Nothing can now stop him. And that life in this life, the journey may or may not be completed. But definitely, since he is on the escalator, the journey has begun. The escalator will not now stop. And therefore, sooner or later, whether in this life or next life, he will achieve moksha. Therefore, pratyavayaha na vidyate. There will never be any negative result. So the Karma Yogi, remember, is an aberration in this world, right? People will throw stones at the Karma Yogi. But the Karma Yogi, instead of complaining about it, the same stones he uses and uses it to build his house. And therefore, there is no pratyavaya for a Karma Yogi. So Shankara gives an example over here. He said, Chikitasvat. Chikitasavat. So, chikitsa means taking a medicine. So he says, it is like taking medicine, right? For, let us say you take a medicine for acidity, and you find that it does not cure the acidity, but instead upsets your stomach. So not only has it not given you a positive result, it has given you a negative result also. So in worldly activities, if you do not get a positive result, if you do not gain, that is one loss. But the upset mind which you have, that is a second loss. And that is why Shankara takes the example of this particular tablet. You take a tablet for acidity, but it does not cure acidity. So you have not got the benefit of the tablet which you took it for. Instead, you get a negative result by way of an upset stomach. And there is a very humorous verse in Sanskrit for a doctor. The doctor is called a Vaidya, right? In Hindi or Sanskrit. So he says, Vaidyaraj Namastubhyam. Hey, doctor, my namaskara to you. Why? Yamaraj Sahodaraha. You are Lord Yama's elder brother. Now, can you imagine why he says that? So that will come. Vaidyaraj Namastubhyam. Yamaraj Sahodaraha. Yamastu Harati Pranan. Lord Yama takes my life. Vaidyaha Pranan Dhananicha. But you take my life, oh doctor, you take my life and you take my money also. Okay, that's a very humorous verse. He's comparing the doctor with Yama, and he says Yama is preferable because Yama only takes my life. But you know, oh doctor, you take my life and my money also. Double loss. No positive result and negative result. And therefore, pratyavayaha na vidyate. Okay. There is another aspect to it which is given by the other words. Swalpam apasya. Sorry, yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
So you just said that there is no reverse journey for Karma Yogi.
Yeah.
Suppose in next birth, anyway, I don't know, but suppose the prarabdha is such that it is going through, can there be like this life, someone is Karma Yogi and because of prarabdha in coming birth, he or she may not be according to this, that no negative journey means at least that person has to be Karma Yogi?
Well, actually in the 6th chapter, Krishna gives a categoric assurance that if you have stepped onto the spiritual path and you are a Karma Yogi, you will never again have any, slipping back to a non-spiritual lifestyle. So we'll see that in the 6th chapter. So this is a reference to that. That is born out of this verse, that there will never be any spiritual downfall. Once you are on the spiritual journey, then the Lord himself steps in to make sure that your prarabdha is appropriate for every particular. Because remember, Lord is karma phala data, prarabdha data. So he makes sure that your journey is such that the prarabdha will ensure you in completing a journey. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So, not doing any nitya karma is also doing, na?
No. How do you say that?
You take a decision, just as you take a decision not to do, then you take a decision to do.
No, you take a decision to kill your neighbor. What happens to the neighbor?
But you don't do it. You don't do it. Then
That's it.
So not taking a decision not to do is also a doing.
When you do something, then only there is a phalam. So very, very clear this thing. Unless the karma is performed, there is no phalam. Taking a decision is not a karma. It is a decision.
But mental thought is a decision or not a decision?
It's a thought, but where is the karma part of it? Karma requires your organs of interaction.
Okay.
Very common confusion. It's a very common confusion. Okay, people say that you think the bad thoughts, then you're getting bad. Thinking bad thoughts has no immediate effect. It might weaken you in terms of your mental resolve. That is all.
Acharya ji, here I have another question. While we are talking about free will thoughts come from conscious decision of the intellect.
Correct.
So that mental aspect will be taken as a karma.
No. That's why I said, you take a decision to kill your neighbor, free will. Have you killed him?
No, but if we take not the decision to kill when the thought has arisen,
how does it
and
make
we
a difference?
take the decision.
How does it make a difference? There is no effect in the world at all. The only effect is in terms of weakening your own willpower.
Okay.
I have a question.
Acharya ji.
Yes, one please. Boliye, sir.
Yeah, my question is like in Mahabharata, when Draupadi was being disrobed,
Yeah.
Bhishma had all the powers to stop.
Yes.
But he didn't take any action.
Correct.
So was it not a papam?
So that is definitely a papam in terms of pratyavaya papam. Not doing what you should have done. That's what I'm saying. There's a nitya karma when you don't do, there is pratyavaya papam generated. Okay.
Keeping quiet is not a...
So wherever your duty is involved and you fail to do the duty, that is what the pratyavaya papam is about. But normally, like, you're walking on the road and you see somebody's face and you want to slap him and you don't slap him. There's an omission to slap, right? So nothing has happened.
Yeah.
So we should understand this pratyavaya papam always in terms of duty. Where there is a mandated duty to do something and you don't do it, then papam is generated in spite of the fact that no karma has happened. That is the concept of pratyavaya papam.
Thank you.
Acharya ji,
Yeah.
you said that when we don't do, like pratyavaya papa is created when we don't do what we are supposed to do,
Yeah.
because certain sanchita karma gets activated. But isn't that a good thing? Because then we'll get to burn those karmas. So why is it a bad thing?
That way, all papam which you do is burning karmas. Every papam is a good thing. And that attitude, if you have, it's the attitude of a jnani. Okay, so it's fine. That let me suffer in life because I've got previous karma. Is that what you don't want? Theoretically, it's okay, but that can come only from a jnani's point of view.
Difficult to do.
Yeah, not difficult to do. From a jnani's point of view, it's correct. Let my karma be burnt out. The body's karma be burnt out. Jnani is no longer the body. Okay, so let me come back. The next words were swalpam apyasya dharmasya. So again, this is the same thing. Normally, an action can produce a result. This is the same discussion going on. Okay, this discussion is important to understand because normally every karma can produce a result only when the karma has been completed. Right. So supposing that your car is not working and you take it to the garage. So unless the repair is completed, the car won't run. Right. Or you are sick and you have started taking tablets. Until the tablets have taken effect, the course is over, you will not be all right. Therefore, karma produces result only on completion of the activity. That is the point. But here, Krishna is saying that swalpam apyasya, even little bit of this karma, which means whether the action is completed or not, it will not be wasted. Right? Why? Because even the smallest thing will produce some amount of inner growth. So this is like thinking of cleaning a mirror. The whole mirror is cleaned only when you completed your action of cleaning. But supposing you have cleaned a little corner and then you are disturbed and you stop cleaning, that little corner stays cleaned, right? Some part of the mirror has been cleaned. And therefore, that action has not been lost. So when you again do the cleaning, only the rest of the portion you have to clean. This is the meaning of the Swalpam Apyasya. Little activity also, little Karma Yoga also will produce some result. So this way of life, this Karma Yogi's life, it will produce some result. Okay. Remember here, this is, again, people get confused. That's why I'm bringing this point over here. We are not talking about knowledge of Karma Yoga. Okay. It is not Karma Yoga Jnanam that is being talked about. It is Karma Yoga Anushtanam. After getting the knowledge of Karma Yoga, you have to put it into practice. Like the same example as the car example. Supposing I know how to repair my car. So I have got the knowledge of how to repair the car. That knowledge does not give me any result. When will the result come? When I implement that knowledge by working on the car. So Karma Yoga Jnanam has to be followed by Karma Yoga Anushtanam. Anushtanam means the practice, right? Which is very different from Vedantic Jnanam. Vedantic Jnanam does not have to be followed up by anything. So this is one important point where Karma Yoga or where Karma and Jnanam differ. Karma Yoga requires, the Jnanam of Karma Yoga requires follow-up by way of practice. Vedantic Jnanam gives result purely by the Jnanam alone. Okay, that is the side point over here. So we are saying that when a person wants material results, there is a rule in Shastram. If you are doing some ritual for material results, let us say you are doing Putra Kameshtu Yajna. You know what Putra Kameshtu Yajna is?
To get a son.
To get progeny.
Desirous.
To get a son.
Son, I won't say. Maybe more correctly, to get a child. Okay.
To get
Putra,
progeny.
it can be Putri also. So let us not get all misogynistic over here. There are a lot of ladies in this group, they'll beat us up. Okay, so it can be daughter or it can be son. And there is a particular yajna for getting the child. Okay, now Shastra says that when you do this kind of yajna, this kind of karma, which is meant for a material result. Okay, there are other things also. There is a homam for money also, for getting more money. Okay, so anything for material results, Shastra says that there are very strict Shastric rules about how that particular activity is to be carried out. Like there will be rules about, in case of, let us say, Putra Kameshtu Yajna, there will be rules about what kind of bricks are to be used. Which is the place from where the mud to make the bricks is to be used. What is the number of bricks to be used? In what form, what design are the bricks to be made? The Homa Kunda should be in what design? Then rules like where the Yajamana is supposed to sit, facing which direction. Then how many priests are supposed to be there? From which all Veda? Is it the Yajurveda priest, Samaveda priest, Rigveda priest? How many are supposed to be there? What sort of mantras are to be chanted? What sort of oblation is to be given? You know, there are hundreds of rules to be followed. And Karmakanda says that in case of homam or karma for material success, even if one of those rules is broken, then no benefit will accrue, and you might even get some wrong, some incorrect results or bad results. So for doing karma for material results, the rules are very strict. You cannot afford to make mistakes. Even if one word is chanted wrongly, you are supposed to get a negative result. Okay. That is what it is being said. And therefore, in case of Karma Yogi, he is not doing it for material results. The material result may come or may not come. That is a different matter. Like supposing you are doing, let us say, some business, but with the attitude of a karma yogi. Now, again, you're separated in two parts. You may or may not make profit, right? So the primary objective of that karma is not for material benefit. It is for a chitta shuddhi. So if you are doing, for example, there's a yajna, but the yajna's main purpose is not for material benefits. Now, you might be doing a yajna which is normally done for material benefit. Right? There's avahanti homam, which is done for, let us say, let's do it for money. You want more money, you do a homam. You can do it with the primary objective of getting more money, in which case all the rules will apply. But the same homam you do as a karma yogi with the primary objective of getting chitta shuddhi, then Shastram says that in that case, rules do not apply at all. Any number of mistakes you make, it does not matter. Why? Because your primary benefit is chitta shuddhi. And chitta shuddhi does not depend upon these factors. It depends upon your attitude only. And therefore, you can do the homam. Doesn't mean that you do it wrongly. Okay, doesn't mean that if you know it, do it and then still you do it wrongly. You don't do that. But if you make mistakes in chanting or mistakes in something, breaks, whatever, some mistake has been made, it doesn't really matter because your primary benefit, chitta shuddhi, will still accrue. That is why he says, pratyavayana vidya alpam svalpasya. Even the smallest activity will give you chitta shuddhi.
Raviji,
yeah,
I have a question. In the sense, as you said in Karma Yoga, you keep doing the activities even without expecting the results.
No, I didn't say that. That's a wrong interpretation. Why?
When we do a yajna, when we do an yajna, you do it only for the sole purpose of the yajna.
Let us take a small activity like cleaning the floor.
Okay.
When you clean let us say that you're in the ashram, okay? Let's make it more complicated. You're in the ashram and Nataraji says, clean the floor today, your job. Tell me, what is the primary thing which drives your actions? And don't say Nataraji said so, but what is the primary thing? Your job is to clean the floor. So what drives your actions?
Just it's our duty. It looks like
no. And the very structure of what you are going to do to clean the floor. What is the activity which take right step by step? What will I do to clean the floor?
I'll pick up a broom.
Yeah.
I'll pick up some water. I'll pick up a mop stick.
Yeah.
And do it in sequence.
Yes. So sequence, and therefore you know that first I will start with the left side, then I'll clean it up.
Yeah.
What is defining that? The very purpose of the activity, the very result expected is what? A clean floor.
Okay.
And the clean floor therefore defines your activity. The very structure of your action is defined by the expectation of the result.
We want to keep it really clean, so we have to follow the rules.
So without knowing what the end result will be, you cannot structure your action at all. You can start the action at all. Therefore, it is not correct to say that I am not bothered about the result. You are bothered about the result.
When it comes to daily prayers, Raviji, people say any prayers without sankalpa is not going to be of any use. But when we do everyday prayers without any sankalpa, does it mean that it's going to be meaningless?
No, it's giving you chitta shuddhi.
Yeah.
Providing you're not doing it mechanically.
It becomes as a habit, right? When
but it should not be mechanical, right?
Salagrama puja.
You can actually
full
do
involvement.
With full involvement, but without asking for anything.
Yeah, we can do that, isn't it?
You should not have a sankalpa at all.
Oh, that's what my question was.
Making a sankalpa of give me chitta shuddhi is okay, but because of the shastric laws which says that when you don't ask for something, chitta shuddhi is automatically given.
You don't need to ask. Yeah, that was my real query. Thank you, Ji.
Ideally, you should be praying without any expectations, without asking for anything.
Yeah, because somebody told me that without any sankalpa, the prayers becomes useless. But I didn't feel that. I felt.
Actually, normally priests will tell you that because
Yeah.
he wants to be paid for his activity. You know?
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Ji. You answered my question. Thank you so much.
Okay. Any other question?
So, Acharya ji, I have a small question.
Yeah.
So, does the intent become the overriding thought over the action?
Okay, I'll give an example for that. Let me just finish this first. Okay.
Yes.
So we are going at the last part of the verse. The last.
Sir, I have one question.
1 second. Let me just finish the verse, then we'll take questions. So the last quarter of the verse is Trayato Mahato Bhayat. Mahataha Bhayat Trayate. This kind of activity will protect you from the great fear called samsara. Why? What is he saying? For any activity where you are generating Chitta Shuddhi, you are not directly involved in any other mental framework, and therefore by generation of Chitta Shuddhi, what will happen? The fear will go away. The fear of what will happen to me will go away, because the pure mind is able to appreciate that yes, there is more to what I am doing than just the activity. Therefore, this whole verse is going to say that whenever you are doing any karma yoga with the correct attitude, there is no loss of effort. There is no negative result. Even if you took so what we have done so far, the 3 quarters of the verse, neha na iha abhikrama nashosti. There is never any loss of effort in doing any karma yoga. Pratyavayo na vidyate. There will never be any negative result in doing any karma yoga. Swalpam apyasya dharmasya. Even very little of this karma yoga, even if you are not been able to complete the full day as a karma yogi, if you had only 1 hour only, that also will give you some sort of result. And therefore, Trayate Mahatoba. You are protected from samsara even by doing very little of the karma yoga for the day. And therefore, Arjuna, be a karma yogi, because once you are on the spiritual escalator, there is no return at all. Okay, now the questions. Go ahead with the questions.
Can I ask?
Acharya ji, sorry, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Go ahead.
So there's a very famous saying from childhood we have been taught, the Gita's line, action is thy duty and reward is not thou concern. So now we are like, when we were discussing karma, we said we do expect some result from karma. So how do we justify these 2 statements?
You use the word reward, not result.
Okay.
That is the difference. Results are expected, rewards are not.
Okay, thank you.
Unless you learn to give the value of reward to results, in which case you are wrong. That is what is being said.
Okay, thank you.
I give the example, right? Supposing you are cleaning a vessel. What is the result expected?
It will clean the vessel.
Clean the vessel. Without that, you can't even begin to clean the vessel. But if you're going to say that somebody will come and say, well done, that's a reward.
That is reward.
That expectation is wrong.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much.
Okay.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Like in day-to-day practical life, if suppose I want to devote myself into a spiritual practice and give a long number of hours to it, which means that I should have a financial support behind where I can devote that kind of time to my spiritual learning, where I'm not struggling to pay my bills and stuff. So I have that kind of a framework ready. So what I'm trying to say is that if suppose today I'm not financially ready in that way, and I'm striving to get better and stable so that in future I can devote myself to spiritual learning, that is not wrong, because in practical day-to-day life, it's not possible to do this without any without having any kind of financial support. And so if I do ask the Lord for some kind of money or some kind of help in material thing. So, but if I'm doing it in the Ishwar, Arpanam and Prasad Bhavana, So I'm asking the Lord, but I'm still having that framework, mental stability that whatever I get, like if my wishes get fulfilled, it is fine. If they don't get fulfilled, then also it is fine. So does that still like come in the karma yoga thing?
No, it doesn't. Because you ask for money with a specific. See, what you have to be doing is you can't shift the responsibility onto the Lord, okay?
No, it's not like shifting the responsibility. I'm doing my work. But
you are telling the Lord that mujhe paisa do, then I can be a better karma yogi. That is essentially what you have said. I mean,
no.
Yes. Take away all the adjectives and you're simply saying that you give me more money and I can be a better karma yogi. It's a transaction. Is it not?
No, like what we are asking is like, suppose I'm saying, like you said, like I'm doing a business, like you give an example, like doing a business. So if we are asking for, I'm doing my work, it's not that in business, I'm not putting my 100%, but at the same time, if I'm praying to God for his grace, in return, what I get, I accept it as a prasad. So even if my business fails, I do accept it as a prasad. But asking for the God's grace, is it like wrong? Is it like saying that then it is not, because I'm still involving Ishvara in my karma, right? I'm not being a karmi in that sense.
Yes, the fact that involving Ishvara is there, but then, again, you are jumping some steps. There are different types of, worshippers. So, which we'll come to in the 7th chapter, but I'll just tell you briefly that there is a worshipper who goes to the Lord only when he has problems. Okay, otherwise, Lord is not there in his environment at all. So that is called the Artha. Krishna calls him Artha, the person who remembers the Lord only when there is trouble. So that is the emergency bhakta. He goes to Lord only in emergencies. The second one is called Artharthi, which means he goes to the Lord regularly, but the primary thing is for business, right? So if you, like I was a banker, okay, I was a banker once upon a time, and then I've seen many of these partnership deeds in Gujarat. So in all the partnership deeds, the partnership has a limitation of 20 partners. So in all the partnership deeds, the 20th partner is Lord Tirupati. And therefore, what is the implication? When you are saying that, oh Lord, this year I made, say, 10 lakhs. So 20 partners means 5% of profit. So that 5% of 10 lakhs I will give you this year. And then you are praying, saying that, Lord, give me 30 lakhs next year. What is the unwritten implication? Unsaid implication?
I will give you.
So I will give
only 5%. If you give me.
Only if you give me 30 lakhs, I can give you 15%, 5% of that.
It's like a deal.
Conditional.
So it's a transaction.
Yeah.
Remember, we are not looking down upon either of these. Okay, Krishna doesn't say, because Krishna says they are bhaktas. They are classified under bhaktas. Even if you go to the Lord for emergencies only, you are still a bhakta. If you go for transactions only, you are still a bhakta, but you are not a karma yogi. Karma yogi is going for what purpose? He is saying that this I devote, this offering, oh Lord, I give it to you.
Yeah, so if I offer it, but not, like what I'm saying is, you say that you offer it, but you don't ask for anything. If you ask for Chitta Shuddhi is fine, but you get that automatically.
Yes. So
but
when you're offering it, what you're going to do is, you're going to say that I am going to work for this. Please give me what I deserve only.
What?
Please give me only what I deserve in accordance with my karma. If I put X amount of effort, I should get back only. And you don't have to say that, because the law of karma also says that you will get what you deserve. So if you have put in certain amount of effort, whatever you are required to get out of that effort, you will get without asking for it. And that is why you don't ask.
What if we ask for guidance? What does it count as? If we ask for guidance, does it also count as a...
You can ask for sadbuddhi, but these are all nice things to say. Ultimately, your intellect is given to you. And Shastram is given to you. So intellect has to be used. Then only you can get proper guidance.
So, but
will it count as a transaction?
There is no exchange there, right? So it's fine.
Sir,
and don't look, yeah, go ahead. In Tattvabodha?
So in Tattvabodha, we learned that there is like the results are by two things. There is one which is our prarabdha, the other is prayatna.
Yes.
And praying to God was a part of prayatna.
Prayatna is your effort.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, effort is there, but even with the agami karma, the effort is also prayers, right? Asking God's grace.
Yeah, but I'm not saying that you should not ask, okay? Because it's the natural tendency to ask. As a karma yogi, don't mix up things. Asking is fine. If you are praying, that prayer adds to your punyam. So that adds to your stock. That's not a problem. So prayers can be part of your agami, can be part of your effort, but it adds to your punyam. That's the net of it. It might add to the result also. But that doesn't make you a karma yogi. Karma yogi has, we'll come to that further later in this. Karma yogi has very simple. I will devote all my offerings to the Lord. I will give my 100% effort. The rest doesn't matter to him. That is what he means. Pratyavayona padvidyate. And swalpamapyasa. That effort of mine is all that is in my hands. That is what I'm going to do. Yeah, I'm not discouraging you from praying. Okay, you can pray. There is really no problem. And you will find that prayer gives you great strength. But ideally, the prayer should be that, Lord, give me what I deserve. So, yad bhavyam bhavatu bhagavan purva karmana rupa. Whatever is going to happen, let that happen, O Lord. Please make sure it happens only in, conformity with my karma. That is what is a prayer. Yes,
could you?
I'm seeing two hands. Let me just say
other
first.
types of.
Vandana, please go ahead.
Acharya, that means prayer should be basically thanking God for whatever we have got, not asking for anything, that as we will automatically get what we deserve.
Yes, but please do remember that prayer, especially in difficult situations, has great strength. So don't stop prayers. Even if you're asking, it is okay. You're bringing the Lord into your life. For that particular moment, you are fine. It's okay.
It gives us strength at that moment.
It will give you strength, and it is necessary. To build up the confidence in the Lord, it is necessary for you to ask and that prayer be answered. Every time the prayer is answered, your whole confidence in the process becomes stronger.
But on a regular basis, I think there should be more of thanking than of asking.
On a regular basis, express your gratitude and work for Chitta Shuddhi. That is what is being said. I am not saying do not ask. I am not saying that it's bad to ask. Asking is always good because Ishvara is there in your life.
Raviji, can you give a small idea? How can we be Karma Yogi 24 hours? Like whatever we do, we try to remember that one thought.
You give it to the Lord. Make a sankalpa saying, I'm offering it to you. Okay. Just like you're putting ghee into the homam. Like what do you do when you sit for puja? You make an offering of an apple, right? Let us say, and say, okay, Lord, this is yours. So that offering is make it back. Even if you're brushing your teeth, you can still say, right? Lord, I'm brushing this teeth and offering to you. Having a bath, there is actually a prayer as well, having a bath,
Acharya ji, I have a question.
We don't know the exact Sanskrit word, but even if our intention is the same.
I'm sure the Lord understands English. There's no problem. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Acharya ji,
yeah.
I have a question. So essentially, as I understand what you're saying, Karma Yoga would be probably when I'm thinking that, Lord, please give me the guidance, I have to do this action. So there is a component of duality over here, that I am doing this action. If we do every action from this term that, Lord, you do the action via me, whatever you have to do.
No, that's an absolutely wrong thing. You are passing responsibility to the Lord. See, the person who does the action is the karta, the karta, right?
Right.
And karta eva bhokta. You can't expect the Lord to become a bhokta. So those are the problems with normal understanding that everything God does. He doesn't do anything. He just enables you to do something. That is why you're given free will.
But the free will is also enabled by the knowledge.
No, free will, you are born with free will. You have the ability to do things wrong. That is what is free will all about. If you were supposed to do only in terms of dharma, then you are an animal, right? Animal never does anything wrong. It does exactly according to its own nature. Because free will has been given to a human, you have the capacity to violate dharma. Otherwise, nobody who has no free will can violate dharma.
Acharya ji, when you said that if we don't do our duty, we will incur papam.
Yeah.
So how do we know what our duties are? And if we don't do our duty, what we do not know what our duties are, do we incur papam?
See, normally, the situation itself describes your duty. The argument that I don't know what my duty is a very specious argument. As a daughter, do you know your duty, what you have to do? Nobody needs to tell you. As a father or a mother, do you know your duty? Nobody needs to tell you. But if specific cases there is a problem, you can always come to Shastram. Shastram says a few things. One of the things is that whatever you don't want done to yourself, don't do to others.
Mm-hmm.
Some simple rules like that. Whatever is valuable for me, I should assume that it's valuable for others. These are all common sense rules. Shastram says them specifically also. So these things you don't like people to talk badly to you. So you should not talk badly to others.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing.
Could you tell us the other types of bhakta? Artha, Artharthi.
Yes. Jignasu.
Jignasu. Please go ahead and say, sir. Jignasu is?
Jignasu is the one who seeks.
Only seeks.
Who is the seeker? All of us hopefully are Jignasus.
Okay.
The one who's on the spiritual path. And then there is a Jnani, the fourth one.
Oh, only four. Thank you, Ji. Thank you.
That you will come to in the 7th chapter. Okay.
Thank you,
Guruji, ये त्रायतो महतो भयात का exactly क्या word meaning है?
Mahata bhayat is great fear. Trayata is protect.
Okay, trayata, protect.
Okay, so Munmun, your hand is still up. Anything?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
This is just the continuation of the previous discussion where we were saying that karma, until and unless we do it and then it doesn't incur anything. I mean, karma phalam. So thought is not a karma and this. So continuation to that, again, my question is, suppose I speak out. So this is a karma?
You have spoken out, right? You can hurt people with that.
Okay. So until and unless I speak out, just I'm thinking. Now there is like thought has like kinds of, we say now that vibration E equal to mc square. So in that respect, will not kind of reach out.
See, the thing is,
I'm just asking.
Your mental frame of mind can hurt nobody excepting you.
Okay.
You can wish for somebody to fall dead, but unless you are blessed with spiritual powers, nothing is going to happen to that person.
Okay, and also suppose that expression comes up, so that is also karma, right? And then
the moment expression comes, it can be perceived by somebody else. It turns into karma.
That becomes a karma. Okay, thank you so much, Abhiraj.
Okay, remember, however, that I am not advocating that you have violent thoughts. If you have a violent thought deliberately, what is going to happen? Every time you have given to that thought, you are weakening your willpower.
Correct.
So it is bad for you ultimately. That is why we say don't have bad thoughts. Not because the bad thoughts will hurt anybody else, but they're going to weaken your willpower. Mm-hmm. Every time you give in to that bad thought, your willpower is weakened. It's like smoking cigarettes. The first time is easy to stop. The second time is harder. The third time is, after a month, is most difficult.
Yes, Acharya, thank you.
So, the lady who asked about are you satisfied about praying for success for money, or you have some more questions?
No, sir, I have questions. I'll ask you on personal message.
Yeah, I mean, if the questions are not very personal, you can ask here because everybody will benefit. Otherwise, if it is personal, you can ask me on, or you can call me up, whichever.
Yeah. No, not personal. It's not personal. Basically, what I understood from the last time we did chapter 2. So that is what I was just revising. So nothing personal, but like when we were discussing the Nishkama Karma, so basically what I'm just trying to confirm if what I have understood is right, is that even if like I'm asking something, but I'm ready to have that, I'm just talking about the attitude, that even if I'm asking for a material thing from the Lord, offering my actions to him, so I'm doing the Ishwar Arpanam by offering my actions, and I'm asking for a material thing instead of Chitta Shuddhi, but I'm having that Prasad Bhavna attitude, wherein I am saying that what I receive, even if what I'm asking I get it or not, it is fine. I'm having that correct attitude. It might not be coming under as Karma Yoga, but it can still give me Chitta Shuddhi, right?
No. See, the moment you ask, then see, you can ask two things. Either you ask for material things, or you ask for Chitta Shuddhi, or you don't ask, which is the same as asking for Chitta Shuddhi.
Yeah.
There are only two options. One is ask for material things, number one. Number two is don't ask or ask for Chitta Shuddhi. Both are the same.
Yeah.
And therefore, the moment you ask for a material thing, you have eliminated the other one. And therefore, that Chitta Shuddhi benefit is not going to come. You can still be a Karma Yogi, but Chitta Shuddhi benefit is not there. So for that particular action, you are a Karmi. See, every action has a natural result, okay? So let us say that you are studying for an exam. The natural result of study is success. You don't want to ask. But if you ask for success, then that studying is no longer a Karma Yoga activity. But if you study and then you say, this studying I'm offering to you, and you're not asking, then what is happening is that there's an unwritten thing that whether I succeed or fail, it is okay with me. That is Prasada Buddhi. So the Prasada Buddhi comes with not asking.
So the moment you ask indirectly also, it doesn't give you Chitta Shuddhi. Not even
it will give you the material result.
Okay.
You can't get two results for one action.
Okay.
It's a sankalpa which decides whether you are Karma Yogi or a Karmi. See, again I'll repeat, I am not saying it is wrong. Most of us, even Karma Yogis, are not Karma Yogis in every activity. All you have to ensure is that predominantly your activities are Karma Yogi. There are important things in your life. You have to look after your family. You have to earn some money. For that, you ask, most definitely. But majority of the times, you should be a Karma Yogi. And slowly you will find that as you progress, you will stop asking for money anytime or success anytime. And you will convert yourself full-time Karma Yogi.
Correct me.
Acharya,
Please go ahead. Whoever. Can I?
Acharya, I just wanted to say this is with my previous question. To ask the Lord so that the sense of separation between the you and the Lord, you know, that it goes away. And I mean, it's like, you know, asking the Lord to become one with the Lord. Is that also a part of asking?
That is not going to happen. You can ask, but it's not going to happen unless you study.
Yes.
Only moksha can remove separation. Only jnanam can remove the separation.
No,
Asking is not going to remove.
Right. So when we ask for that highest of the goal, and we say whatever, so if the highest of the goal has to happen, it will happen through a process of karma, the dissemination of your karma, of the gyan, everything coming together, that finally even meditation would probably, you know, moving into those stages is the only way to reach the highest.
No, no. So there is only one way to reach the highest. Only one way. Yeah. Absolutely.
So, but when we are speaking of jnanam, Gyan would be, one is knowledge, understanding, and one is Atma Jnanam, actually, the absorption of the knowledge within you.
This is the exact point which I mentioned earlier, that during karma, there are two activities. Knowledge of karma and doing the karma. During Jnanam, there is only one activity. Jnanam itself produces a result. So it's like, you know, you are, let us say, Shankaracharya gives the example of cutting a fruit. So are there two activities involved in cutting the fruit and making the two separate parts?
No.
No.
By cutting the fruit itself, it becomes two separate parts. That is the example. In Jnanam, that is used. By getting the Jnanam itself, moksha is produced. There is no separate activity needed for moksha. That is the difference between karma and Jnana.
So, correct me Ji, if it's wrong. A Karma Yogi's attitude, in short, should be like keep doing the activities and finally put it like Kayena Vacha Manasendriyarva Udhyatmanata Prakriti Swabhava Karomi Adyas. That is the meaning, isn't it?
That is the Karma Yogi's attitude, yes. Whatever I do with my body, words, and I'm offering it to you.
And you are the master.
You are not the master. See, the master business, remember, is duality. Okay, so as long as you are Karma Yogi, you are in duality. The ultimate aim is to transcend that duality.
Okay.
So right now it is good because we have second verse. But when you go by reaching up to the 18th chapter, if you are still talking about you and me, then there is a problem. Right now it is okay.
Okay.
Yeah, Kush. I can see your hand.
Sir, last question. For example, we don't ask anything for ourselves, but we see somebody who's in trouble, who needs help, or somebody who's been going through some tough times. If we pray for them, if we ask for them.
That is very good. It gives a lot of Chitta Shuddhi.
Okay. Thank you, sir. That's all.
There's a very, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha. That very prayer is there, which even the Jnani does.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, last question. So somebody was asking the last question for today.
I have a question about karma and karma phalam. You said the phalam only arises if you do the karma. But in Tattva Bodh, we were given an example that if someone is crossing the road and you push that person out of the way of oncoming traffic, that is a good karma. So if the phalam only comes out of the actual karma and the intent is...
You have to bring the mic closer to your mouth or something. We can't hear it.
And the intent is not... See, if you have good intent, what you are saying is it's the action which produces the karma phalam.
No, I didn't say that. I said the intent produces the phalam when accompanied by the action. Very big difference.
Tattva Bodh was that you're pushing someone out of the way in traffic. So it's a violent action of pushing someone on the road.
No, see, you are focusing on the action. That is the wrong thing. I said intent is the one which gives the papama phalam, providing the action is there. There's a huge difference from what you are saying. If the intent of saving the person is the reason for pushing the person, even though the pushing is a violent action, the intent gives you the phalam. The violent action gives a phalam which is materialistic. So that is you're talking in terms of drishta and adrishta. Drishta is visible, adrishta is invisible. Whenever every action consists of drishta, drishta phalam gives you, drishta karma gives you drishta phalam, adrishta karma gives you adrishta phalam, which is punyam papa. So the pushing of the person, it will result in a drishta action, which will be either will be hurt or something. That is cancelled there straight away. The intent, which is adrishta, gives you punyam or papa. Your understanding is not correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, with this we must stop. We are 10 minutes past. So, any other questions? Please put it in the group in great detail. I will answer. Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Om Tat Sat Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Guruji.